Oh my god, it's Thursday! And we have healers on tier list.
Thursday?
No, it's TLT. Again, TLT. What is this? Like, this is some kind of magic or something. We have to talk about healers in Mythic Plus.
Holidays are upon us, man, and everybody's doing Mythic Plus, so you gotta know what the healers are doing. And maybe you've seen our recent Mythic Plus on tanks. We'll have even more this week, but this time we want to know exactly how healers are doing. The data is, depending on when you watch this, the data kind of has the logs mostly from the fortified weeks, so we're kind of getting into the tyrannical sides and all that good
yeah,
stuff.
we'll do the tyrannical side once we get with the week over, but it's still a lot of like fortified stuff, so be wary. Obviously, as always, we take data from like Warcraft logs, you know, sub creation and Radar.io. We mix all of that up and we try to make this rankings as objective as possible.
This alchemical experiment.
Yeah, but the same story as the tanks. Not too many outliers in terms of like the high keys and performance. Like performance is good like for all of them.
Yeah,
and keys are very similar. Like,
I think historically healers had the most amount of discrepancies between each of their performances. Yeah. There's like one outlier now, but that's probably going to change. And outside of that, like things are pretty even across the board.
Yeah, but let's get into it. So we started off with Resto Shaman, and for some reason, I don't know why exactly, but a lot of people find Resto Shaman maybe a little bit unpopular. This is not a popularity tier list, obviously, but we don't see as many logs, for example, as we see with the other healers. Now, I don't know if this is an actual popularity thing, or is it something...
It could be closely tied to its performance. The numbers are slightly lower than...
The logs you see with Shamans, they're decent.
Yeah, Shamans are doing like 16s to 19s. Actually, and we're kind of like, you know, we're going to where the Shaman is actually placed in the tier list is the only spec that actually hasn't done 20s as of recording this. And also, you know, speaking about 20s and all that, people are just not logging their 20s. We just have leaderboards. Nobody's exposing their strategies, man. So it's very hard to take into consideration. So
it feels like MDI.
Yeah, the only thing that we have going on is like the highest number of keys and kind of like the Mythic Plus score. So that kind of puts Resto Shaman around in C tier.
Yeah, it puts it in C tier, but again, we don't have enough data. Like the data for all of the other healers is way larger. But you're gonna see, like when we get
might
to the,
change.
Yeah, let's go to the next spec. It's Discipline Priest and talk a little bit about that, because traditionally Discipline Priests were really good in raids, kind of like not preferred. I'm not saying that Discipline was like giga bad in Mythic Plus, but they were not preferred because you also have.
I mean, Holy Priest was like was blowing Discipline out of the water for the past couple of seasons. Yeah, right now, it's not currently the same. Obviously, every spec has been reworked with the talent system right now, and now we're seeing like the first results of it. Yeah. The first results are basically putting Discipline up into the A tier. Definitely, it has really good tools. Now that everything that it had good in the last couple of expansions, you can get without sacrificing too much, because obviously the talent system doesn't let you take one instead of the other. You just don't have points to get everything. But you do get, you know, the double power infusion, mind games, and all that good stuff if you need it.
And it's also like, as opposed to previous expansions, I feel like Discipline has an easier time managing attunement and maintaining attunement. And, you know, that's a big plus, especially when you have like super high octane situations in like stuff like Ruby pools, for example, where you have to like know how to like ramp up and prepare for that damage prevention, but also being able to like maintain attunements and constantly DPS to keep the people alive. It's really cool. Nice to see it in A tier. I think the biggest key we've seen logged was a 20 for Discipline Priest, which, I mean, it's good. Guys, I don't know how many of you out there do 20 keys, but this should tell you. Also, I wanted to mention this on Resto Shaman as well. Like, I think the biggest logs you've seen were 19s. Yeah. So this doesn't mean Resto Shaman being in C tier is dog shit. They do 16s, 17s, 18s, and 19s. So we don't do that.
There's the difference, while there's a big gap between Discipline and Resto Shaman, is because Resto Shaman across the board, like there's 1 or 2 people that done 1 or 2 19s, but the rest of them are kind of like very average, while as opposed to Discipline, you'll see more even across the board in the higher echelon of the keys. Much more higher keys. Much more higher.
Yeah, I know. All right, Holy Paladin next. Boy, Holy Paladin, man. Actually, I wanted to love Holy Paladin, man. I wanted to love it so much.
I guess in the overall design, it's the best one out of the Paladin specs that I have found. But even so, Paladin has kind of been similarly to Discipline Priest in the kind of the playstyle that we've had over the years. Yep. You kind of had to do damage to translate that into healing, and you had a lot of damage reduction abilities that were really good in very difficult content. Obviously, Holy Paladin has always been the suffering from being a melee as opposed to range, but now that we're seeing the melee meta actually rise way up right now, we're probably seeing Holy Paladins have an easier time staying in melee, because all of the really dangerous mechanics are on range players.
But it's not as punishing to be a melee, at least in this first
Until we
season.
get Stormy.
Once we get shit like some affixes that are really punishing for melees, you're probably gonna see some drop off from Holy Paladins. That being said, I think we've seen one log with a +21 on Holy Pala. That was like, and the rest of them like really small, right?
Holy Paladin is kind of a weird one because it's the only it's actually going into A tier, but it's I think the only healer in A tier that has done a 21, but we cannot really get like everybody that's doing high keys. We just have the leaderboards. We don't know how much healing it did, like what kind of composition and stuff like that. So we cannot.
It's weird. It's weird because you see a 21 key by my Holy Paladin, but the rest of the logs are like, you know, like average 17s, 18s, 19s.
Yeah, they're kind of like discipline-ish level.
Yeah, but it's still A tier. It's still like way higher keys than we ever did so far on our characters. So it's definitely a respected spot over there. Now, on the other hand, we have the Holy Priest, which, man, I mean, you know.
if you thought I was like, okay, so now that we're done with the Holy Priest meta, we're getting back into discipline. Well, not really.
Not really.
Because Holy Priest is actually still really good, and it's actually the first spec that we have that goes into S tier. It's doing really good. I think Holy Priest right now is doing 19s and 20s across the board.
Yeah, but a lot more consistent. So like the average logs, and you can see this on sub creation on Radar.io as well. Like a lot of like Holy Priests out there on average doing an 18s, 19s, and 20s, which you cannot really see for the other specs moving along. I mean, we kind of knew the power of Holy Priest. We were just expecting actually Discipline to take the cake just because of the tools and the easier methods to maintain attunement and with the damage prevention. Well, we will see how things evolve with the other affixes moving forward. Again, similar argument here. Not all the players have, you know, their 2 sets. I don't think anyone has their 4 set yet. Bis items are still up for grabs, so there's still things that could be changed. But that being said, Holy Priest, I mean, they contribute with the damage. The heals are just ridiculous. They can save a lot of people, and there's like a lot of dungeons who can get you punished. And this discipline, Holy Priests have proper tools to intervene and save asses. Yes. Now, Mistweaver Monks.
We can finally see some revival on the Mistweaver side, where it's now actually doing a lot better than we've seen in the last year or so, I think. Mistweaver has been, you know, historically in the last expansions, seen as probably one of the weakest healers, if not the weakest healer in Mythic Plus. Is doing a little bit better right now. It's all the way up there with the A tier boys. It's a little bit lower than Discipline, but it still feels like it's a league above what Resto Shaman would be. And I mean, you know, monks have gotten a lot of cool stuff in the general talent tree, have like a lot of access to defensives and utility and stuff like that. And now with the revamped talent tree on the spec side of things, you gain access to all the tools that Mistweaver has gotten in the last couple of years.
Plus extra stuff. I mean, you can go for the like, you know, fist weaving stuff. You can go for the range healing type stuff. It's all good. You can look at all of the Mistweavers, see constantly 17s, 18s. There's a couple of 19s and some 20s. So that goes to tell you, even if it's like a little bit behind Discipline in terms of like the highest keys made, it's still very, very good. And if you're like a Mistweaver main, you should rejoice. Your group should feel happy. It's good. It's all good days. Now let's talk about the poster boy, Evoker, the Preservation Evoker, Flames main.
Preservation is a very weird one because I think it's one of the, probably for long-time healers, maybe it's one of the more difficult healers to play at a very high level. But when you do play it at the very high level, man, it doesn't feel like you're not able to do with anything. I have, from the keys that I've done this week, I've done quite a bunch. It seems like there might be an issue with dispelling certain things. Some of the mechanics that you need to dispel don't seem to line up really well with Preservation. That's kind of where I felt at my weakest. And depending on the build that you're running, you can actually interact with different type of mechanics in different way. And you can output some crazy healing numbers. And every 2 minutes when you get the deep breath, you can actually do massive damage if the pools are big, like close to DPS level damage in a short window.
I've seen the numbers. I've seen it. And again, this is another healer that is constantly logging at 19s and 20s.
Oh yeah.
I mean, you see some lower keys, but the big majority of it is like high keys, which goes to show it's a really capable healer. Obviously performing a little bit better than, let's say, Mistweaver or Discipline. So I would say
it's all the way into A tier.
Yeah,
it's a little bit shy of being an S tier spec, since it's not quite at the level of what we're gonna see in S tier, but it's getting there. And for a new spec, people picking it up and considering how difficult it could be compared to what you might know, I think it's doing pretty well. I would be surprised if we don't see it S tier at one point.
Yeah, okay. Now let's talk about the last one on the list, which is the Resto Druid. And dude, I've seen the logs, I've seen the data, and I was
back, baby.
I was a bit yeah.
It's been 2 years, and it's back, baby. Resto Druid is doing so well. It's actually the best healer at the moment.
Best numbers.
Holy Priest is a little bit closer to Resto Druid than every other healer in the game, but right now Resto Druid is doing really well. You're probably going to be looking at streamers doing super high keys, and the healers that you'll be looking are probably most of them going to be Resto Druids, and obviously they have the really good, let's say, Druid kit. They have access to kicks now, which is a big improvement. Also, all of the synergies that you get from the talent tree is going to be really good, giving you the oomph that you need.
Yeah, and also like when we always talked about Resto Druid in a Mythic Plus scenario, like whenever you are able, this is a very similar story to this place actually, because once you get to know the routes and the incoming damage and deal with the specific affixes and stuff, it's a really easy time to like maintain your team and also have like a lot of tools to like oh shit moments. This is like the power of a let's quote unquote hot healing spec where you have a lot of healing going through and ticking through, and that enables you to either contribute with damage, contribute with some utility like, you know, typhoons, kicks, whatever you desire or you built up into in the talents, and also access to like super instant big ass heals. This is Resto Druid right now in a nutshell, and it's no surprise, I guess, like looking at everything it does and plus the tuning of it, it's the best. And looking at the keys, 21s, we see a couple of 21s there. I think it's good, but mostly you can look at like a lot of 20s and a lot of 19s. I think the most of the logs of the Resto Druids are on that range.
It's definitely looking really good, and this is like the final iteration of after the first week. I know Tyrannical has just started, but after the first week where we have some concrete data, it's looking really good. Plus, healers would probably struggle more in 4 to 5 weeks, since that's where the big pulls are coming. That's where you need the most amount of kicks. But this is kind of how it's looking at the moment. It's actually really cool to see, since like you mentioned, we are close into having like top players probably having their force set.
We're getting there.
Definitely by the time we revisit the tier list for the healers, they're definitely the top players will have their force set, and it's gonna be interesting to see how things will evolve.
Yeah, we're getting there. Once again, you see Resto Shaman in a C tier right there. This is just because of the highest keys being done over there. But once again, guys, it's not shit. There's not too many logs, and there's not too much data on any of the sites. Definitely the other healers are played more, and again we're looking at Resto Shamans doing like 16s, 17s, 18s, no problemo, which does imply they're really good and capable. So this is the final image. Let us know what you think in the comments. Do you agree? What do you send? Where do you stand on all of this, or what healer do you play? How did you like do in your dungeons with your dungeon group? As always, thank you, Patreon, for supporting the content. We love y'all. Check the link in the description if you are interested in becoming a Patreon for Marcelian There's perks, there's good stuff over there.
There's tiers there as well for goodies.
Yeah, there's also tiers. And thank you for watching the video. Stay tuned for tomorrow. Tomorrow is gonna be the ranged DPS and Mythic Plus.
Tier list week, baby.
Yeah. Tomorrow's the proper TLF. It's TLF tier list Fridays.
Proper Friday.
Ranged DPS and Mythic Plus. It's gonna be a juicy one.
Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.
Bye.
I've been loving it then, I still love it now. Still, I play WoW. Still, I play WoW. Getting better every day, let me show you how. Cause still, I play WoW. Still, I play WoW. It's getting harder to stay, but at the end of the day, it's a guilty pleasure, so just log in and play. Whether it's classic or retail, I'ma do a /bow. Still, I play WoW.